Single millionaire CEO dad hears pregnant bride whisper, "Nobody wants my baby," then he holds her hand. Rain fell in gentle sheets outside the cathedral, softening the world into blurred outlines and silver mist. Inside, a quiet commotion stirred among the wedding guests. Whispers rippled like tiny waves across the pews, glances passed, and confusion lingered in the air like the scent of roses left too long in the sun. Dominic Hale sat alone in the third row, his tailored charcoal suit a sharp contrast to the aged wooden bench beneath him. The 35-year-old tech CEO was known for many things: his billion-dollar company, his unexpected single fatherhood after losing his wife in childbirth, and his refusal to let the world see his grief. But today, he was simply a guest. A friend of the groom. Or at least, he had been. The groom had just run. It happened 10 minutes before the ceremony. No note, no explanation. Just a man in a tuxedo, running full speed down the cobblestone path outside the church, disappearing into the gray. Dominic had stood in stunned silence like everyone else, until a soft, broken voice near the altar pulled him back. "Nobody wants my baby." He turned instinctively toward the voice. The bride. She stood beneath the arch of white lilies, still in her gown, her veil trembling around her face. Her hands were shaking, clenching the bouquet so tightly the stems were snapping. Her whisper hadn't been meant for anyone, but Dominic had heard it. His heart lurched. He didn't know much about her, only that her name was Lila, that she was beautiful in that quiet, unassuming way that made people pause and smile, and that she had always seemed shy. What he hadn't known was that she was pregnant. And utterly, soul-crushingly alone. Dominic stood slowly, eyes never leaving her. The guests watched with curiosity as the billionaire walked down the aisle, not with the swagger of someone used to boardrooms and bottom lines, but with the hesitant steps of a man led by something he couldn't quite name. He didn't know why he was doing it. He just couldn't walk away. Lila looked up as he approached, her face streaked with mascara and disbelief. "You don't have to be alone," he said, quietly enough for only her to hear. She blinked, her lips trembling. "Why are you?" He reached for her hand. It was cold, delicate, unsure. "Because I know what it's like," he said, voice cracking. "To feel like your world just collapsed. To look at a tiny life growing and think, how do I do this by myself?" A beat of silence stretched between them. "I lost my wife the day my son was born," he continued. "And for a long time, I thought I'd never be enough, for him, for anyone. But people showed up. Unexpectedly. And that's what saved me." Lila's shoulders began to shake, sobs bubbling up that she had tried so hard to bury. Dominic didn't pull away. He held her hand as tightly as she let him. And for a moment, something shifted. The guests, though confused, remained seated, respectful. And in that fragile space, the storm outside faded to a drizzle, and a stillness settled over the church. Later that day, after the guests had been gently escorted out and the wedding that never happened was packed into boxes, Dominic found Lila sitting alone in the church garden, her gown now tucked under a raincoat someone had lent her. She was staring at a small stone fountain, the kind where coins gathered in the bottom, wishes made in silence. "I can't believe I thought he'd stay," she whispered when he sat beside her. "He told me he loved me. He promised. And when I told him I was pregnant." She swallowed hard. "He said he needed time. I guess I thought this wedding meant he'd come around. Guess I was wrong." Dominic didn't speak. He just looked ahead, at the fountain, at the gray light gathering around the leaves. "My baby deserves better," she said finally, voice firmer. "He does," Dominic said. "Or she." Lila turned to him, surprised. "You already love this baby," he said gently. "You knew that the moment you said my baby. That kind of love is powerful." Her lip quivered, but she nodded. "And you won't have to do this alone," he added. "I don't have anyone," she said, so softly it nearly broke him. "You do now." She looked at him then, really looked. Why are you doing this? You don't even know me. Maybe not. But I know what it means to be left behind. And I know that sometimes the people who stay, they become more than the ones who left. A single tear slipped down her cheek. Then another. And she didn't stop him when he reached to wipe it away. Over the weeks that followed, something extraordinary happened, not all at once, but in quiet, invisible ways. Dominic didn't disappear after that day. He showed up, with warm meals, baby books, and a calm presence that soothed the storm Lila had been living in. He invited her to his home, not out of pity, but out of genuine care. And when she hesitated, afraid of charity, he said gently, "It's not charity. It's family." At first, she slept in a guest room. She kept to herself, unsure of her place in this man's world of pristine walls and silent grief. But his son, 4-year-old Elias, changed that. "Are you my new mommy?" he asked one morning, sitting across from Lila at the breakfast table. She choked on her tea. "Oh, no, sweetie. I'm just visiting." Elias looked at her with wide, knowing eyes. "But you make Daddy smile." That night, she found Dominic on the balcony, staring at the stars like they held answers. "Elias said I make you smile," she said quietly. He laughed, a low, tired sound. "He's perceptive." "Is that okay?" she asked. He looked at her, and his gaze was raw. "It's more than okay." There was a pause. "I'm due in 2 months," she said, a little scared. "I don't know what kind of birth it'll be. I just know I want someone there who won't run." "I'll be there," he said without hesitation. And when the day came. When Lila went into labor during a thunderstorm and Dominic drove her through flooded streets to the hospital, he didn't flinch. He held her hand through every contraction, whispered encouragement through every cry, and when the baby finally arrived, pink and healthy and wailing, he cut the cord with shaking hands and tears streaming down his face. "It's a girl," the doctor said, beaming. Lila looked up at Dominic, exhausted and overwhelmed. "I want you to name her," she whispered. His breath caught. "Hope," he said after a long moment. "Let's call her Hope." Months passed, then a year. The world moved on. But for Lila, everything had changed. She had found not just a co-parent, but a home. Dominic never asked her to define what they were, never pushed. But somewhere between late-night feedings, quiet conversations, and shared coffee at dawn, they had become something more. Love had grown, not from passion or pretense, but from respect, kindness, and shared pain. One autumn afternoon, as orange leaves danced across the driveway, Lila stood in the garden holding baby Hope. Elias ran circles around them, shrieking with laughter. Dominic stepped outside, watching them with that soft smile that had become his signature. "She has your eyes," Lila said, rocking the baby gently. "She has your strength," he replied. She looked at him, the wind catching her hair. "I don't know how I ever thought I was alone." "You never were," he said. "You just hadn't found the ones who would stay." He reached for her hand, and this time, she took it without hesitation. "I don't want to just be part of your life," he said. "I want to build a life with you. With them." Tears welled in her eyes. "I want that, too." And in that quiet backyard, beneath a sky glowing with the soft hues of early evening, a family was born, not from perfect beginnings, but from broken pieces lovingly placed together. The story of Dominic and Lila spread, not because of their wealth or fame, but because of what they represented. Kindness. Redemption. The belief that no one is truly alone. And that sometimes, the most beautiful beginnings come from the most unexpected places. Because when a single millionaire CEO dad heard a pregnant bride whisper, "Nobody wants my baby," he did more than hold her hand. He stayed. He loved. He became hers. And together, they became home. Let me know if you'd like this formatted for narration or turned into a PDF script for easier reading.